Now, before starting the pitches, I would like to introduce Sabine Ange-Albert, CEO of Paris Region Entreprise, the organizer of this event.
Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon to everyone. Just a couple of minutes. So Paris Region Enterprise is an agency which supports the growth of businesses, and it means that we also attract businesses from abroad and we help them settle and grow from their location in our big and nice region. While doing that, we have an office in the Valley. We have also other offices worldwide. And this week we have almost 20 companies from the Valley, and we are welcoming here to them today. Thank you for being with us all this week, and I know you will come back. You already are here. From some of you are already have offices and partners in the region. You are these the companies. You are already a lot of innovation. You are innovative companies. You are best at what you do, and to be and to go on being best at what you do, you need to innovate. And that's why you're here today, because you are willing to find new competencies, new resources, new talents. You need workforce. And here we have gathered a lot of resources and talents that will pitch today. Hopefully you will make contacts and find new ways to partner with our region, with the resources that we have in this region, which is the European main region, economically speaking, and in terms of R&D workforce, we are the first region in Europe. We are the first region for R&D expenditure, and if you already knew that, you will have a lot of examples today. If you didn't know that, we have opportunities to find out. Thank you for your attendance, and I hope you can have new partners before this, after this event. Thank you.
Thank you, Sabine. Thanks for this welcome address. Thank you so much. And now we're going to proceed to presentation. So we're going to stick to how much? 5 minutes, is it?
Yes, it's okay. 5 minutes for each speech. And after the pitch session, our host propose a guided tour of École 42, and then we'll have some networking. So now it's time to start with the pitches of actors of R&D, research and education. Let's start with the Carnot Institute Association. Carnot is a label founded in 2006 by the French government to develop partnerships-based research. So let me introduce you Alain Dupré, General Manager of Association Institut Carnot.
Thank you. Hi, good evening. So I'm General Manager of Association des Instituts Carnot, which is the third... no, it doesn't work. Voilà. Okay, it's good. Which is the federative level of Carnot Research Network, Carnot Institute's network, which is composed of 34 Carnot Institutes with a main mission to develop R&D for enterprises, innovation and competitivity. Both in France, most of these Carnot Institutes are installed in France, but most of them already have antennas installed in Europe, Asia, and of course America. So you see on this map a set of locations of these Carnot Institutes, and two main Carnot features: scientific research excellence to be attractive for enterprises in many sectors, and professionalism, mainly professionalism in terms of relationships with enterprises. So we answer all the main social and economical challenges, and we are positioned on the main economic sectors. And for what you are interested in, as I understood, a lot of Carnot Institutes are working in ICT fields. So working with Carnot Institutes, the first aim is to have B2B contractual research with R&D projects, but we also answer with collaborative projects financed by agencies like Europe or French or national agencies. We have an approach with platform services and advice and expertise, and of course joint laboratories, which implies to share strategy and research program on a longer period. So just to give a few figures, Carnot Institutes, these are 2.2 billion of euros activities, and when you check this, the structure of this budget, we have 27% which come from direct industrial incomes, around the same amount coming from collaborative projects financed by agencies, and around 45% from French state basic financial support. That means that 55% of our budget we have to go to look it for through partnership. And in terms of workforces, we gather 27,000 permanent researchers, technicians, and engineers, and we represent 55% of the public research enterprises activity in France, with a set of indicators like spin-offs, around 60 spin-offs every year, 1,000 priority patents every year, and 20,000 A-rank scientific publications in 2013. So to illustrate a little bit on the web and ICT activity, just 3 examples. For instance, the Carnot Institute CL80, in collaboration with Caltech, has founded Apix Technology, a spin-off leader in nanosensor based on gas chromatography systems. That's the first example. A second example, in the healthcare field, ICM Carnot Institute has worked with a BioSerenity company to create a smart healthcare solution for the diagnosis and monitoring of epilepsy. So that was a second example of activity we have with enterprises, and mainly here with some SMEs. And the third and last example, CSTB Carnot Institute in the building area, who worked with the activity company to make, as a result, a full and innovative service for the analysis of energy consumption within in-use buildings. So as a conclusion, to remain in these 5 minutes, a few points I would like to point out. Carnot, that's a very large experience in R&D partnership with enterprises, and from startups to large enterprises. Probably your best entry point in France to access to the best scientific and technological French skills and to numerous technology platforms. A professional R&D approach adapted to the partner's real need. We don't look for selling what you don't need, only what you really need for your innovation. Integrating partner satisfaction, but management of confidentiality and balance industrial property policy. 2 points. Tax incentive for enterprises having activity in France. When you work with a Carnot Institute, you can get rid of up to 60% of your taxes, up to 60% of your R&D expenses off your taxes, and you are able to have incentive for PhD students hiring. If you hire PhD student, you will have half its salary financed by the state for 3 years. So Carnot Institutes, you will hear from Carnot Institutes in the next speeches, since 2 Carnot Institutes, Telecom and Numerical Society, Institut Mines Telecom, and CLA List will have a pitch in a few minutes. And you will also have a pitch of spin-off created by from the MIN Carnot Institute. So, thank you.
C'est bon. It's perfect. Thank you, Alain. So Alain presented the Carnot Institute. Some of them are located in the Saclay campus. So if you don't know what is Saclay campus, of course I'm asking the question to the American companies. Please listen carefully to Yves, because in 2020, 20% of the French research should be located in Saclay. And international companies like Microsoft, Oriba are already located on this campus. So Yves Caristan, the floor is yours. Yves Caristan is the Director for International Affairs of Paris-Saclay University.
Thank you. So in the background of my first slide is a map, which was published in a paper published by MIT Tech Review last year. And it listed 8 world innovation clusters, among which Paris-Saclay. But what is Paris-Saclay? It is a major economic and R&D cluster. And it's located about 15 miles from Paris. Do you have a laser? Yes, 15 miles from Paris. And at the center of it is not a valley, but a plateau. And this plateau is Plateau de Saclay. And it is home of Université Paris-Saclay. The cluster is itself has a workforce of 350,000 people. And 30,000 of them are in the field of R&D. Université Paris-Saclay is 60,000 students. And about 5 years ago, the government decided to strengthen this cluster and to launch a major multi-billion dollar or euros, as you want, program for improving housing, improving transportation, and also build new academic buildings. Well, it's working. Okay, that's... So Université Paris-Saclay, we decided at the same time as the government was deciding that, we decided to create a new university, Université Paris-Saclay. This university is a federation of 19 existing prestigious institutions. Prestigious in France, like École Centrale, École Polytechnique, Télécom. Some of the people are from these institutions in the room. And Université Paris-Sud. And they decided to share a common strategy for higher education, research, and innovation. And it has proved to be a major attractor for private R&D. Attractor because of sharing and interacting with public labs, but also it's a fantastic pool from which to draw for recruitments and workforces. And of course, the benefits of technology transfer. For example, Safran. Safran is a major manufacturer of aircraft engines. 7% of the world market, 1.6 billion euros annual spending in R&D. They are moving 1,600 people to Paris-Saclay by 2015. EDF is a major electricity company in France and in the world, doing the same with 1,400 people by 2015. But let's talk about small companies like Stereolabs, about 30 people. They just recently got the Hollywood 3D Tech Awards, and James Cameron is using their software to shoot Avatar 3. Another example is Evolution Energy. Evolution Energy is a small company, maybe 20 people, a mixture of top engineers and top astrophysicists and top neuroscientists. And what do? They do actually optimization of energy consumption and cost for large companies, such as ArcelorMittal or Total. They are 3 years old, and now they are optimizing 6% of the energy consumption in Europe. Now, Paris-Saclay is an ICT ecosystem with major players like Alcatel-Lucent and their Innovation City, 4,500 people, or Dassault System, 2,600 people. And it's also a blooming connectivity through networking entities such as Systematic, and we have Cap Digital represented here, and Systematic for there, and also across Europe through the ICT Labs. It's a major European program funded partly by Europe. And also it's attracting business angels and VCs. And Christian is here, you can talk to him. Paris-Saclay, it is also about living in a rich environment. Of course, you have very close to Paris-Saclay the Versailles, the Palace of Versailles. But you have also 3 golf courses, the Riders' Cup in 2016. You have also many farms where you can pick fruits and get your weekly basket of vegetables and get your dairy products from cows that browse the meadows of Paris-Saclay. Thank you.
Thank you, Yves. And now we are going to move to a research and technology institute called CEA LIST. This research institute is very close to industrials. 70% of their budget comes from external resources. So Gregorio Amerigo is project manager at CEA LIST. So you have 5 minutes to explain us, to give us an overview of CEA LIST and to explain us how you could work with American companies.
Thank you very much, Hélène. So CEA LIST is one of the institutes of CEA. First of all, I think I need to explain who we are because it's the Atomic Energy Commission, so everyone just thinks that we're nuclear. And we were created at the end of World War II with that mission, so civil and military nuclear technology, and we still have that mission. But today, CEA is 16,000 people. It's got a technology division called CEA Tech, with our 3 institutes, who are also Carnot institutes, actually dedicated to technology transfer. And we are now deploying R&D centers all over France as well. But CEA LIST is in Paris. I think I should say we are one of 7 French actors in the top 100 global innovators list. That's not what we're most proud of. What we're proud of is that 20 of our industrial partners are also in that list. So it means we can't be hurting them that much. So what do? We develop our own technology base, and then we work together with industrial partners, so in France and abroad, to adapt our technology base to their needs. Then there are licenses on background technology, and our aim is to transfer technology to industry. So as you can see, we work with a wide range of partners, both large and small, and as you'll see in a minute, that's one of our strengths. So CEA LIST focuses on digital technologies, software-intensive systems. We are about 700 people, all or most of which are all in the Saclay campus. And we have a range of research platforms. So we work a lot on robotics. We work a lot on radiology as well, and non-destructive testing, just to give some examples. We do publications, we do patents, with the intention of protecting all the new technologies that we're going to develop, so that we can bring competitiveness to our partners. And over the years, we have created 13 startup companies. We also have a number of partnerships, and a growing number of partnerships abroad. We have a joint laboratory with Ericsson, for example. And we have also done some, I'll tell you later if you want the details, but some nice work for DARPA, actually. Just to give you a flavor of the type of technologies we work on, there are things that go from robotics, and we work on collaborative robotics, to HMI technologies. So just an example, we work on multimodal human-machine interfaces, which means we try to provide as broad an experience as possible to users with as little hardware as possible. So touch input, touch output, audio input and output. Another example is multimedia and semantics, where we work on text, image, and video, multilingual automatic ontology generation and analysis. We have a number of startups actually that have spun off CEA in this field. And software validation tools. So we started out in the nuclear business. Our tools were used to validate the software that runs on nuclear reactors. Then Airbus used the same tools to make the A380 fly. And now we've spun off a company called Trust in Soft that it will also be in the Bay Area very soon and is working with other industries to adapt this technology. Just an example of how we work with a spin-off startup companies and small, medium-sized companies. We have a number of joint research agreements and joint laboratories with large French industrial groups. So say, for example, Renault is interested in our augmented reality technology for marketing. They say, we'd like to do a proof of concept to see whether it has any potential. So we said, well, there you go. We have a markerless technology that will allow you to do high-quality augmented reality. Then they say, fine, but now I need someone to deploy a number of augmented reality systems across, for example, all my concessionaires. So, well, we are an R&D lab, but we work with a small company that will be able to industrialize that technology and deploy it for you. And that kind of, I would say, virtuous three-way relationship, we found it works well for everybody. It allows us to create new companies, to create new jobs, and in the end, everyone wins. So just to finish off my presentation, if I had to give you 3 reasons why work with us, well, first of all, we are a Carnot Institute, so the quality of the technology that we develop is recognized. I think here you have an example of, well, as a French president trying our exoskeleton. Also, we work pretty much with all major French companies, both in the Paris region and elsewhere. And we look to create ecosystems where these large industrial groups are supported by innovative small companies that can accelerate the technology transfer from the upstream research that we might be doing all the way to industry. So I'll be very happy to talk to you later on, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Gregory.
Thank you very much, Gregorio. And now let me introduce Gérard Mémy. He's the head of Network and Computer Science Department at Telecom Paris. Before joining Telecom Paris, Gérard has been involved in several American startups. Gérard.
Thank you. So let me say that I am very impressed to be here today at 42, and I am a professor, and I am running a department of computer science at Telecom Paris, which is at the other end of the spectrum. So at 42, you have no math. At Telecom Paris, we have a ton of math. So the selection is made by math, but nevertheless, our students are also very energetic and very good. And what we are doing, and I'm going to make you an offer right now on the spot, is sometimes to have some project and internships that we do with a mixed team. Some team are, a part of the team is we are with our PhD students, and another part of the team is with some other students coming from anywhere. For example, we welcome some Swiss students who are learning and telecommunication at a bachelor degree. We are negotiating at this moment some exchange with West Point, and some cadets from the militaries are going to hopefully to come here in Paris and to have some common project with our PhD guys. So the idea is to create some project between PhD students and other students from anywhere, and 42 would be welcome to join the party, to build up one experiment that the PhD students already made, and the project is about showing that this is doable by somebody else. So that's the story there. I have been asked to give some example of what we are doing with the US, and we are cooperating with the US at a different level, at the academic level and at the industrial level. So, at the academic level, we have several ways, and one of the ways is to send our students to finish up their grade and to spend 6 months at Berkeley or at UCLA or at NYU. And we have a French student at this moment at Berkeley. Another way is to send our faculty members to Berkeley, and we have one at Berkeley at this moment, and I hope to have a second one very soon. That's one way to set up the cooperation, to have people and faculty members to get to know each other through things, through events that are inexpensive at first, and then we build up. We build up from the bottom up. We have a long cooperation with CMU, for example. This is like 10 years that we are working with CMU. We welcome their faculty members here at Paris, and we send our faculty member at Pittsburgh in the cold, so we are daring to do that. And they put their code. We are very proud to have some French software running on some US servers at Pittsburgh. We have done the same thing at Stanford, where we have some common project on the Internet of the Future, where we have developed some simulator for the Internet of the Future, and that is this code is running at Stanford and is very frequently downloaded, and we are very proud of this. So here is some ways to do cooperation through through students and some modest project, and then to build up from there. And this is what we have started at CMU, and I give you this example, and we are going to start that with cadets from West Point on cybersecurity. At the industrial level, we have now a multi-year cooperation with Cisco in the US, because Cisco in France is just a commercial antenna, so we cannot do anything with Cisco in France. We went to the US. In the US, we encounter some French fellow working at Cisco. So this is something that the American people are doing very well to attract talent, and they get some of our best engineers working in the US. And but you know, when you are mining and you get nuggets like that, the good miners they want to go to the mother lode, and the mother lode is here in Ile-de-France, and so the people. I am inviting the American people to come here and to see who we are and what we are doing, and to build up things with us. With Cisco, we have started with this fellow, and we got some first grant, and we were very, very proud of that, because that was the first time we got some American money here in France. And we developed a small project very successfully, and then we built up this relationship, and we got a string of grants. In the meantime, I have been invited by Cisco to be part of their steering committee for the Internet of Things, so I go to the US at least once a year, invited by Cisco. In the meantime, we build Saclay. And at Saclay, we built a master degree in telecommunication called ACN, for Advanced Communication Network. And we presented this master to Cisco, and Cisco has been very much attracted by this program. And they signed, in the past 2 months, they signed a share with École Polytechnique, and our school is part of the share today. So you see how we undertake the same kind of process to start relatively modestly with a US manufacturer, and we build up year after year a cooperation that we enrich every year by one dimension or another. So we have 2 feet. One is for the research, another one is for education. And this is how we build up our cooperation with a US company like Cisco. So the next step will be to enrich this share with some research branch, and we already discussed with Cisco, and we already have our roadmap to go further. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gerard. I'd like Gregory Delera to join me now. Gregory is a former student of Mines Paris, and he's also founded a startup called Wizik. So please, Gregory, explain us how you moved from Mines Paris to Wizik, please.
I will first explain. You've had a great talk at the beginning of the show explaining what is the Carnot Institute Association. And I'd like first to focus on one specific Carnot Institute, which is the Carnot Institute Mines. Yeah, so what is, I'll try to explain what is Carnot Mines. So what is mine? This is mines, but this is also mines, which stands for Innovative Methods for Enterprise and Society. And this is precisely what is Carnot Mines, a key partner for transferring innovation, R&D, technology towards enterprise. Maybe you can switch to the other slide. Yeah, it's composed of 39 research laboratories that are from 8 top engineering schools in France. It does represent a network of 2,000 people, 2,000 experts, that is generating 40 million euros in turnover for contracted projects. And what is key with this institute is, of course, there is a lot of interdisciplinary experts, but the main stuff is about transferring technology towards companies based on 5 key departments. So I'll go through very briefly through each department. The idea is just to understand what are the possible anchor points between a private company and the Carnot Mines. Let's start with, I was talking about mines. 250 years ago, the first school of mine was created in France and was targeted at managing the mines in France. Back to the reality now, the focus has a little bit shifted to understand, to identify all the opportunities for, let's say, for example, renewable energies, but there's a strong historical focus on energy and natural resources. The second key department is about society and environment. I will just mention a spin-off of the Carnot Mines Institute, which is called GeoVariance, which is still relying on a very strong partnership of R&D between the Carnot Mines Institute and the company, which allows the company to provide very cutting-edge technologies to identify resources, to make some estimation on volumes for technology, and to assess risks on going through a given set of resources. Yeah, transformation of matter is another pillar, and there's a great example of a software, numeric simulation software for helicopters and modelizing the flow around the helicopter that has been developed by Professor Heli Hasham, who is at the head of the computational department for mechanics and physics at Carnot Mines, but is also a visiting professor at Stanford University. And his software is currently valorized and commercialized by the dedicated business unit from Carnot Mines, which is called Transvalor USA. And it could be a great anchor point to monetize some initiatives and technological transfers. Let's talk about intelligent complex system, which is another pillar. Here, the idea is to present a chair of research that has been developed between Carnot Mines and Peugeot, the French car manufacturer, to develop a chair of robotic and virtual reality. So another example of collaboration with Carno Minds. Final pillar, a great pillar, methodology of innovation, because I was kind of following this major when I was at one of the school of it. And Thales Avionics is using a totally breakthrough design method in several projects, but one of the key projects is to redesign the cockpit of the future for the Airbus A350, and they have totally reprocessed their design methods through this approach. What I would like to just summarize that Carno Minds is about entrepreneurship culture and academic excellency, and those two pillars are spread across all the schools of the institute. And I am a former student of one of these schools. We have great example of very mainstream, very successful companies like Criteo, so I don't have to present this company. But hopefully on a less mainstream, less successful at the moment, and I still have to present, there's also my company, WISIC, on a very more niche market, which is the music practice. And hopefully we'll have a video just demonstrating what we are doing at WISIC on this area. So the idea was to switch a very traditional digital paper business to a digital one. So we are totally web-based. And when the consumer is playing in front of its webcam, you have a score following in real-time engine that is following and screen scrolling what the guys, myself in fact, is playing. So when I will slow down, the computer will analyze my play and we slow down, so I can jump anywhere on the score. Of course, it's nice to play alone, but it's also great to have an accompaniment. So we don't hear that much, but we have a full accompaniment that is following me in real time. I can turn off the flute and still have a nice, very chamber music, chamber orchestra following me. I can turn off all the instruments just to hear the flute and have an example. And I can time stretch this in real time within the browser. I can pitch shift the sound also in real time in the browser, so it can perfectly fit my needs when I'm playing in front of my computer. Yeah, so we hear a little bit of noise. While I'm playing, I have an automatic real-time assessment of my performance, which can be monophonic but also polyphonic. And all my mistakes are colored in red on the screen, so I can share with my teacher in real time, or also just have a track record of my progress. And the final stuff is that we can synchronize in real time any kind of YouTube performance with the score. So it can be very motivating for students. And if I click anywhere on the score, I will switch to the proper part on the video YouTube, so I can make some loops and have some motivation. And that's one of the examples of what is innovation in such a setup and environment. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Gregory, for introducing Mozart in this speech session. Now I'm very happy to welcome two students from École 42, Gabriela Depois and Arnaud Schenk. So Arnaud and Gabriela, could you tell us more about your experience in École 42?
Yeah, so we're going to have a different kind of presentation. We're actually going to talk about ourselves instead of talking about really interesting technology. So I'm Arnaud Schenk. Before coming to 42, I was working in a startup in China, which went the way of most startups, which is to say belly up after about a year. And so I came back and I had to kind of figure out what I wanted to do. I had been working for about 3 years doing everything from marketing to software engineering in different startups in Switzerland, in the US, and then in China. And so I decided to kind of focus for a year and settle down, but I couldn't really go to traditional university because I'm a high school dropout. I'm ashamed of it. I'm sorry. So I had two options, which was basically go to a dev bootcamp type of thing. I don't know if most of you are familiar with dev bootcamp in the US, which is a really intensive program, but very short and doesn't really cover. It really covers only web technology. or I could try to apply to some universities that do allow people like me, so without a high school diploma, to come into their school. But I was never, hence the fact that I dropped out, I was never a big fan of traditional schooling. So the option that I was considering was just self-educating, but I'd rather, from experience, you progress much faster if you're surrounded by people that are much smarter than you and people that are just as motivated than you as you. So that's when I discovered 42, and that's exactly the type of environment I've encountered here. Gabriella, what about you?
Thank you, Arnaud. I have quite the opposite parcours, way of life, the path, because I had my baccalaureate in France. Then I did the traditional classic way. I went to business school in Paris. Then in a BBA at EDEC, which is the other one in Lille and Nice. I did the both cities because I wasn't really happy in both of them. And then I was lucky enough to find an apprenticeship for doing an MBA with a job. So they pay for the school and I get a salary. And it was in e-business, so I was so lucky. It was fantastic. I did a professional thesis on the MOOC, massive online open courses, which was fascinating. I just received my grade. I was so happy. And meanwhile, I did a small vacancy with the MBA where we went to Dublin and we visited Google, Twitter, and EMC. And I found the answer to everything, which was 42 for me. But I was such at ease at EMC and the others. Then I went to the pool at 42. I was so relieved, really having fun for such a long time. I didn't have that much
15 hours a day,
fun.
30 days a month.
That was really strange for my parents, but I didn't have that much fun before, and I was really happy. And I also did another summer trip with the MBA. I was so lucky. In New York, where I went to G-Unit to meet the media manager for 50 Cent, which was really funny. And we went to some incubators in New York City. We visited Kickstarter, but we just knocked at the door and they opened and said, okay, just come in, visit the place, it's fine. We were really lucky. And then the answer was, okay, you got in, just go to 42. And my parents were really shocked, really surprised. I was not supposed to do that. I was doing some marketing studies, luxury one. And finally, I'm having the best time of my life. And I'm loving it. I love the place, the people, the technology's point of view, the curiosity of the people, the generosity of the time, the attitude.
I think the best part about the school for me is traditionally, so I didn't go to university, but I have friends who went to university. And specifically for engineering schools, you kind of end up getting one type of person from very similar backgrounds every time. So you get people, who are good at math, who are good at school, whose parents really push them, and you don't really get a very diverse student body, background-wise. And at 42, I have a friend who worked 3 years in finance in London. I have a friend who's now 15 who just finished his high school way ahead of schedule. You have people like me who never really did high school. People like Gabriella who come from marketing, and I think that's the real strength of 42. It's just you don't get stuck in one very tight mindset.
It's a huge salad bowl.
Yeah,
which
exactly.
Makes everything.
I think that's the key.
Thank you very much. Now we are going to move to the second part of the pitches. And it's time now for the key actors of Paris Région ecosystem to pitch. So let's start with Philippe Roy, the Deputy Executive Officer of Cap Digital, the Paris Region Competitiveness Cluster for Digital.
Hello, nice to meet you. So my name is Philippe Roy. and I work for Cap Digital. I joined the cluster 8 years ago after an experience when I've done research. I've worked in large companies and I've worked in startup, and now I'm trying in the cluster to mix everything. You heard Carnot Institute, CA, Paris-Saclay, Institut Mines Telecom, WITSIC, and all of them are members or founding members of the cluster. The clusters have been created in France about 8 years ago to be sure that innovation goes from universities to startups and go after through diffusion through large corporations. So we try to manage that. Okay, so our objective is to make Paris region be one of the major worldwide hubs in digital economy. And so we try to have all this innovation crossover between research labs and startups and companies. We are about 800. This is the official number. We hope to still cross the 1,000 in some month. We've got VCs that are part of the cluster, large corporations, and we grow very fast. Today we are 30 staff members to manage all these salad bowl, as has been said, where we try to put everything together. So where do we come from? We come from the media and telecommunication industry, and at the beginning it is where we were. And also education and lifelong learning. And in 2009 we extended our perimeter to care and smart living, and in 2013 we extended to other industries where people come for us to get our technology and to go to digital transformation. If you look at the, oops, no, it's not that. Yes, here our motto is the French cluster for digital transformation. But if you look at the past, it was at the beginning the cluster of digital content, where we were in the media industry, and after it was the cluster of digital services, and now the people who come to us are coming for digital transformation. Companies like GDF Suez, like Aéroport de Paris, like L'Oréal, they come to us because we have the technology that can help them transform themselves. So if I look at some of our success, the first one is MacGuff. So this is a company that is now in a strong relationship with Universal. They have issued 2 movies, Despicable Me and Despicable Me the Second, that have been ranked 14th and 6th at the box office Mojo. And if you look at the results of the Oscars, you've got very often other movies that come from us, from the animation industry French, like Logorama. If you look in the video game industry, we've got Quantic Dream, that sold more than 2 million exemplaries, but also Ubisoft, that I've not quoted here because it is just the second largest game player worldwide. If we go to the photographic industry, DxO is a member of the cluster. It is in a competition with Adobe Lightroom, and it has a lot of partnerships in the US, for instance, with DP Review, that is the largest web site on photography. Next time, if you go to robotics, this is one of strong points. Here you've got Adeban Robotics, who is the first worldwide leader in humanoid robotics. And it used to go to research labs, and for instance, now and Romeo go to research labs, but now they're going to deployment with Paper, and Paper is this robot that will be deployed in Nestlé shops and in SoftBank mobile shops. In Internet of Things, we've got Citizen Science that won several awards at CES, and even new for CES 2015. And they just signed an agreement with ASICS. So every cloth from ASICS will incorporate the citizen science technology for Internet of Things. And we've got also other members like WeThings, Sense, Netatmo, that are large players in this industry. Next one. So thank you. So we've got other companies. I've not quoted companies like Solidanim, who is also part with James Cameron of Avatar, the second story, and you will see a lot of these technologies worldwide. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Philippe. Now I'm very happy to welcome Frédéric Auru, the Chief Operating Officer of NUMA. NUMA is a very creative organization in Paris with co-working spaces, accelerator programs for startups, for large corporations. Please, Frédéric, tell us more about this place.
Yes, hello everybody. So I'm the CEO of NUMA, and NUMA is the biggest Paris tech hub for startup, so in Paris and in France. So it comes from a long history. Yeah. In fact, we were created in year 2000, so 14 years ago. At the beginning, we were just a bunch of entrepreneurs organizing innovative events in Paris. And slowly we've been building a big ecosystem in Paris, in fact the Web 2.0 ecosystem in France. 2007, first Living Lab. 2008, the first co-working place in Paris called La Cantine. 2011, the first acceleration program called Le Camping. And then just a year later, end of 2013, we opened NUMA, yes, next please, which is this building, a 6th-floor building, where I see some American friends who've come here, either Mario, thank you, I'm happy to see you again. And so this is a 6th-floor building where we basically support entrepreneurs wherever they come, wherever they need. And so we have different programs from floor to floor. The first one is co-working, plain co-working, but not just plain. In fact, we were the first, so we tried to invent something new. So first of it, we have around 100 seats for co-working. 50% of it is given for free, absolutely free. And 50% of the rest is given with networking and active mentoring. So we have developed programs for early startups, for people, entrepreneurs coming and having to start a project, but lacking maybe a co-founder or a product that is really defined. And so we help them with mentoring and connecting with the ecosystem. It's not a standalone, it's also connected with many others innovation co-working places existing in different parts of France. So this is a national network, and you will see it's also an international one. Then the second part is what we call the Le Camping program. It's an acceleration program. We select 12 startups out of 300 applications each 6 months. So today this is our 6th batch that is coming out. So 72 startups with very good track records. For instance, Mesagraph was the first acquisition of Twitter in France. Also Drug Tracker acquired by Intralinks for 10 million euros in 3 years, from 0 to 10 million euros in 3 years. And there are many other startups that hopefully are still growing, and I hope they will go to an IPO. Then we also, yes please. We also organize open innovation program with big corporation, startups, students, experts from everywhere in the ecosystem. So we have a very, very inclusive way of making people work together. It's not just startups with startups and corporates with corporates. It's really making the work together. And so we have many different programs to make them work together. And we also, in this program, help some Series A or Series B startup to develop their project here by experimentation with some beta testers that we find in our ecosystem. And last but not least, we organize a lot of events, 1,000 a year, so it's 3 to 4 each day. It can be from meetups to bar camps to hackathons, whatever you want. And on the whole, this is 80,000 people coming in the building each year. So this is a lot of people, a lot of talents you can touch and work with. So to conclude, what is NUMA today, please? So co-working, experimentation, open innovation, acceleration, lots of events. But all what we do, in fact, is creating opportunities for those guys on the right that are ambitious entrepreneurs, coming and wherever from where they come. And when I say wherever, it's also not just for French people. We really like to have this. This is not just a French tech hub. This is an international one. And for instance, we have two big networks, important networks with which we work. The first one is a European one called Atalanta. It gathers acceleration program in France, Portugal, Spain, Italy, UK, Eastern Europe. And we have devised with them some startup acceleration program. So the idea is, I have a startup that maybe could develop quickly, then I can send it to the UK or Portugal or Spain and even have a sort of tour. And we also exchange mentors and in fact we exchange lesson learned and key strengths. Then there is also the Google for Entrepreneur Global Network, which gathers dozens of ecosystems throughout the world, and particularly in the US, but also in Africa, in Asia, etc. So here's my message for you guys. I'm really looking forward to welcoming you in Numa. If you have a company that you want to develop in France or in Europe, I'm very happy to discuss with you to see how we could help you in this prospect. Thank you. If you want to connect to me, please write to fred@numa.paris. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Frédéric. Now I'm very happy to introduce Gary Siget. Gary has been involved in several startups, and he has recently funded with two partners using IO, a unique Fab Lab in France. This is a very recent Fab Lab and yet extremely successful. So Gary, tell us more.
Okay. Did you find my presentation? Well, anyhow, I'll begin. Well, my name is Gary Siget, as Ellen said. I basically come from a web entrepreneurship environment, and for the last 3 years, I've had the chance to meet a lot of entrepreneurs, especially at Numa, and some hardware entrepreneurs. And I quickly realized that they were facing several issues, and that something was missing in Paris. And basically not only in Paris but in France as a whole. So for the last 15 months, we've tried to find different investors, public investors, but mainly private investors, to create a 1,500 square meters space in Paris. Only dedicated to hardware. Hardware means IoT, but not only IoT. Design, it can be design, it can be anything related to an item and to an object. So don't worry, I'll do it. I'll do it without the presentation. That's fine. But so that you can at least see a couple of pictures. So we found a space. It's an old. It's a pretty recent contemporary art gallery that we basically changed into. You can call it Fab Lab, but basically it's a huge prototyping workshop. So what we provide is not only a prototyping workshop. We provide a conception space, and we provide desks. That's basically the infrastructure that we provide, but we'll also provide expertise. So you have 500 square meters of workshops, 500 square meters of conception space and training space. So you have different rooms to be trained in. You have, let's say, some kind of agora where people can exchange on their project, and something like 10 computers equipped with everything related to CAD and to CAM. So computer-assisted manufacturing and computer-assisted design. And then you have a third space which is dedicated to offices. So you have 2 open spaces for entrepreneurs. entrepreneurs, freelancers, and so on, and a couple of offices that we dedicate to let's say excubation projects. So we've discussed with a lot of corporations in France that have needs of prototyping for a specific amount of time and to create proof of concept. Usually they work with design offices, but their idea was, and I'm not speaking about one example. We have something like 20 examples of companies that need to internally prototype different proof of concepts. So it's a subscription-based model. So you pay a monthly fee. It's around 150 euros for to get access to the workshops and to get access to the conception space, and it's around, let's say, 400 euros per month per person to access to those services and to access the offices. But the beauty of the model is that we don't only provide infrastructure. We provide infrastructure and expertise. We have full-time experts on site in manufacturing, in CAM, in CAD, in electronics, and in let's say machine operation. And the access to these experts is included in a certain way in the monthly subscription-based model. And if, for example, they do need some expertise during half a day until 3 or 4 days, they can access to this expert specifically on their project. We've been operating for the last 2 months, and we have around 70 people, 70 members. So we can say that we have around 55 projects. It goes from an individual that wants to improve his skills, his or her skills. Then you have the individual entrepreneur that basically wants to create the first proof of concept before creating his company. Then you have the startups that actually have that doesn't have offices, that get access to the co-working space and regularly goes to the workshop to do some electronics or to begin to build a certain prototype. Then you have the more mature startup that basically need access to the prototyping workshop, but also to the experts in manufacturing to prepare the manufacturing in France, in Europe, or in Asia, whatever they need, depending on the project that they're working on. And then we do have smaller companies that wants to, let's say, create new products. And of course, we work with different larger corporations that actually are trying to do, let's say, concrete open innovation by sending their employees working at usine.io. So I'm very sorry that I cannot show you some picture. Anyhow, my address is Gary@usine.io. Please feel free to contact me and visit me or sending me an email, and I'll be happy to share with you some documents and some presentation. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. We're sorry about this. There was some technical. There was so many slides with so many rich media on this, video and so on. Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. We could have make it work. So thank you so much. And so before we had to get some refreshment, I wanted to thank you, all of you. So if you have any question about some of the presenters here, you're welcome to ask them. Or anybody wants to make comment, I'll go around and then the mic. Okay. Jean-François, thank you. I was not sure that you were here, so we saved you for last. This is great. Thank you, Jean-François. So did we get our hand on? Okay, very good. So least but not last. In fact, some of you have seen Jean-François yesterday because he's got a lot of roles, and so thanks for coming over to. We're going to go through a visit after that. I don't know if you've been to the École 42 before. It's a great place, and we had. You have? 10 minutes. You have 10 minutes. Okay, so we'll. put the slides, and then we have, yeah. Okay?
So I am Jean-François Gallouin. I'm the general manager of an organization that we call Paris Region Lab. Here it is. And there is a, yes, a remote. Good. Thank you. So Paris Region Lab is a non-profit organization founded in 2009, so 5 years ago. It's a budget of 4.6 million euro yearly, 40% financed by the public money and 60% by private money. We are 33 people working at Paris Region Lab. And we have a governance which is still a public governance, meaning that in my board I have 2 deputy mayors of Paris. One of them is Jean-Louis. Have you met Jean-Louis? Yeah, maybe? Oh, yes, okay. Jean-Louis Sicard, and 2 representatives of the region Île-de-France, of the Paris greater area. We have different activities, but I will focus on 3 of them. I will focus on incubation, event, and the club Open Innovation. You had a first flavor of the club yesterday. Yes, so if we have time, I will jump back on that. So one of our activity that we support, we operate a large incubator in Paris. Actually, it's a multi-site incubator. We have different buildings in Paris, 10 buildings actually, in different areas of Paris. And we support at the same time 200 startups. So it's a large incubator for France, I mean the largest in France. And we have different sectors that we focus on in these incubators. We have, for instance, video games, we have e-publishing, e-health, green technology, tourism, sports, so many different areas. We are a late-stage incubator, meaning that when the startups come to us, they are already created, so they are already companies, and they have a product. So we are precisely probably more a business accelerator. We help the startups to find customers, and we help the startups to find money, basically. So I'm going to go directly on some figures to give you an idea of what we do. Since the beginning of the activity, these are the figures for the end of 2013. We had supported since the beginning 506 startups. The survival rate for the startups at this time was 80%, close to 80%. So it's a good rate of survival for the startups. The turnover for the fiscal year 2013 of these 400 still living startups was 404 million euros. So you see the level of maturity of the startups. They employed at this time 4,300 employees, and they raised this year, 2013, 49 million euros with business angels and seed capital or venture capital. So this is one activity. In this activity, if I go back to yes, the slide I showed you, you see here that we have incubators that we operate in partnership with large corporations like Renault. So we operate they outsource their incubator in our structure. Renault, Air Liquide, SNCF, Alcatel, AXA, Diam International, GDF Suez, so many different large corporations. They outsource their incubator in our facilities. Second activity I wanted to present briefly is the Open Innovation Club. Actually, you met yesterday a lot of members. I think there were 30 companies yesterday assisting to your pitches. And there were, for large part, members of this club. This club, actually, they are a representative of the innovation department of these companies, and they want to develop business with startups, and we help them to contact startups in France, roughly, because we work on a very large database of startups, something around 10,000 startups in our database. And also we organize workshops with them to share best practices, in the open innovation process. Third activity, and I will be done. Third activity that we operate large events in Paris. One of them is the Grand Prix de l'Innovation de la Ville de Paris. It's a startup contest. We have, usually 500 attendees, applicants, startups in this competition. Different categories, a lot of sponsors. 2,000 people attending the ceremony awards, so it's a big event in Paris. And this year, for the first time, we had the first edition of the International Innovation Award, which is a startup competition again, but at an international level. We had 355 applications from 34 countries. We selected 20 finalists that came to Paris the 1st and the 2nd of December. And we had again a ceremony with a lot of people, press, media, etc., etc. This is what we do. We are. We have started this year to welcome foreign companies in our incubators. So you're welcome. You're pretty welcome if you want to explore the European market, to come to see us instead of going, in a common or private environment. You can set up your representation of your company within an incubator, within this ecosystem, with startups, with the Club Open Innovation, etc., etc. So you're pretty welcome if you want to come to Paris to explore the European market. Okay?
Thank you so much. Before we go, just wanted to ask one question at one person who may be a representative of the U.S. company, American company that came here. And so that question is going to be asked to somebody I know. First of all, I'd like all the representative American companies to stand up so that for networking session, we'll recognize who you are. And, the people will come to see you. There you go. Thank you, friends. Thank you. Thank you for that. You can sit down just a couple of seconds. Mario, you were put on the spot by Numa, and so you seem to visit Paris even though you're anchored in Silicon Valley. All right, so you've been part of yesterday and today. Can you encapsulate in a couple of words what you think of what you've seen here with R&D labs and incubators, innovators, and so on? You have the magic of one-word things that from your expertise. And you're not a foreigner you come very often to Paris. So can I get a word from you?
So I guess 5 years ago this didn't exist for a lot of these programs. If you go back, if you're looking at a lot of these programs started in 2009, and even before then, I was coming to Paris. All of Europe, many of the things that we have in Silicon Valley didn't exist here. So that's I think that's a testament to understand is, this is very new, and there it's not just areas like Paris. It's Berlin. It's Barcelona. It's Madrid. You have Stockholm. So you have other municipalities within the union are trying to copy Silicon Valley, but it's hard. There is a culture of openness that Silicon Valley that I think that you need to embrace here in Paris. You can copy the venture, you can copy the incubators, etc., but the openness and charity that you have with each other is probably the most important thing. And that's the beauty of Silicon Valley is that if you need a help, an introduction, a coffee, it's easy. There's no meet with my secretary and I'll schedule an appointment thing. It's very open. It's very. There's not much friction and it's very fluid. So that's my advice to at least to the Parisians here, is to help each other out. Many of you might think it's the attitude of, if he's winning, I'm losing. they should not have that. If he's winning, it means everyone's winning, right? So.
Thank you. And I think you need to come back because things have changed even more than you think. What you just mentioned about the secretary, that was last century. So thank you, everybody. We're going to take a quick tour of the École 42. In this room is going to be all the employees of Facebook have a big party next door. So they're going to come in here in about 15 minutes. It's kind of the place where things are happening. And you were here today, and thank you very much. So the visit will take about 5 minutes, and then we'll get some refreshment. Thank you so much.